All right, hello everyone, good evening. I was thinking to play a video at the beginning, just to warm up a little bit. Let's see. Whoa.
Und die fängt an sich zu drehen, jetzt in Pose, lächeln und so, dann haben wir 360 Grad Datei, das heißt, es sind ungefähr 40 Gigabyte für eine Aufnahme.
Bin ich aber mal gespannt.
Ja, das sieht ganz hübsch aus. Wenn wir mal daneben. Sieht super aus, ne? Das heißt, ich kann jetzt ganz langsam ihre Gelenke quasi in Bewegung setzen, leicht anschütteln. Bis auf einen Abstand von 30 cm kannst du nicht erkennen, ob es gedruckt ist oder echt. Also gehen Sie eine gesunde ran und schauen es an. Oh, lass die Kamera.
All right, so you probably understand what we can talk about. So today we can talk about something about 3D printing and fabrication, how that connects to human-computer interaction, right? So let's start with this. How many of you recognize this or know what this is about? All right, so this is actually the world's very first commercialized 3D printer that was built in 1987, more than 30 years ago. And as you can see, it was quite big and bulky, and of course, it was very expensive. So over the past 2 decades, although the 3D printing quality gets much better, the resolution is much higher. The primary usage of 3D printing still remains in the manufacturing industry for the past 2 decades. The game changers actually came in around 2010 when the group of makers came up with the solution to create this low-cost and more affordable desktop 3D printers. And then over a couple of years, we have seen the price of 3D printer have dropped dramatically from more than 10K to nowadays you can actually get pretty good 3D printers for less than $500. Actually, we have a couple of 3D printers in the sandbox. I have one in my office as well that's like only 250, and the print quality is really good. At the same time, I've seen the numbers of 3D printers sold have increased as well. We have now seen 3D printers in schools, in class, for kids, for educations. We have seen that in makerspace, sandbox, for us to tinker around. If you're geek or you're tech savvy, you might already have 3D printer in your bedroom. This is not my bedroom, by the way. Or if you want to be creative, you can put 3D printer to the back of the camera and try something like this. It's like called 3D printing on the go or on the fly, right? So people are arguing that we're sort of getting into the new era for personal fabrication. And media and reports talk about how in the future personal fabrication or 3D printing can change people's life. Among many of these talks, I found this one quite interesting. So this is the cover image from one of the issues from the economist. The reason I really like this one is because it's sort of aligned with my own long-term visions for design and fabrication. I believe in two things. I believe that in the future, not like in the next 5 years, but maybe in the next 20 years, we'll see two things. On the one hand, we'll see that in the future, everyone hopefully will be able to design and customize 3D objects by themselves. So things we can see nowadays that are going to be able to design by yourself. We can all be designers. And the second thing is like maybe in the future we'll have a personal 3D printer or personal fabricators in our home, and everyone will be able to create 3D physical objects, but not just for the appearance, but also have functionalities. Right. So this is sort of the long-term vision that I'm having with 3D printing and design. But of course, this is sort of something that's like we hope that can be achieved in 20 years. We cannot achieve that from now on because there is something that we need to solve first. right? So there's two challenges that specifically related to human-computer interactions. I just want to mention that. The first thing is designing 3D models nowadays is still pretty difficult, right? Don't get me wrong. If you look around in this room, all the physical objects you see, or physical artifacts, they are probably designed with some of the process from the digital CAD modeling tools. We already have this kind of CAD modeling tools for more than 30 years, probably. They're quite powerful, but they're also quite sophisticated. Professional trained designers can make good use of them, but because they have the very steep learning curve, I cannot I expect that in the future I will be able to learn tools like that. Right, so there's like the first challenge is the 3D modeling itself is pretty difficult nowadays. The second challenge is the things we can print with the nowadays 3D printers, especially those commercial off-the-shelf 3D printers. They're pretty limited in terms of things we can print. Right, so this is things we hope we can print in the future. For example, the flat model after print, maybe we want them to be able to direct fly out of 3D printer, right? Or the car that can drag out of the 3D printer after finished print. But what we can do nowadays are things like that. Like, I mean, it looks pretty good. They have different colors and shapes. With higher resolutions, we cannot see the layers difference. They're pretty good in terms of the appearance. But many of them don't have much of the functionality. So compared to things we want to print, they're static. Right? So that's sort of the two challenges that we're still facing at this moment. And I think one way to sort of, I won't say that we can solve them, but one way we can try to approach this is by combining fabrication with design and interactivity. So specifically, we can consider this through like two thematic here. On the one hand, it's trying to lower the 3D design barriers by combining fabrications and design together. That's what we call interactive fabrication, and lower the design barriers for 3D modeling through interactivity. And on the other hand, what we can do is trying to sort of raise the output capacities of a fabricated object, so we can print things with some level of functionality. So that's sort of things we're trying to do here. Because of time limitation, I'm not going to talk all of the products here. This will just be too many. So here, this lists some of the things that we have been working on over the past couple of years. They all combine with some of the design hardware and also software system that support the design and building process and some physical output from these systems. Today, mainly focus on interactive fabrications, how to make the design process more interactive. And if you're interested, you can send an email so we can chat about how to build a machine that can print things that in the future. Right. All right. So, questions for you: how many of you have tried CAD modeling tools before, or have tried to design and print 3D models by yourselves? Okay, we have a couple of students. Is this like a fast process for you? No, not really. All right. So for many of you who haven't tried that before, so the current design fabrication model is like this. So you design everything, pretty much everything on a 2D screens with a CAD model tools. That itself, because they have a complicated interface, will take a couple of hours if the model is really complicated. So you spend a lot of time designing 3D models on the screens, and during this process, you don't have any access to the physical models, right? And then after you finish the design, you sort of send the model to the 3D printers, and that printer will go to print the things layer by layer, and that will take another couple of hours, or sometimes if the model is big, it can take overnight. So from the design to the final result takes a lot of time, and a lot of times what you receive is not the perfect design. Because there's a delay between the digital input and physical output, you don't have the easy access to the models the minute you design that. That causes a lot of problems. The delay between the digital design and physical models create this gap so that you cannot get the physical model immediately You cannot check the size of the model or put the model in the environment to see if it's fit or not. So because of the delay, it is hard to check the design early on, and also we have the complex interface. It's hard for people to use the 3D model tools. So that is something that we have seen in the history of computer science as well. I will tell you guys now if you tried this before. So this is like in 50s or 60s when people still do programming with a punch card. So this is the way people do programming back to 50 years ago. So the way you write a program is like you actually punch a hole on this card, and you run this card through these machines. The way you do programming is like you punch this card, and then wait a couple of hours for the machine to run through all the pile of your cards, get the final result of your programming. So from the input of the programming to the result from the machines will take a lot of time. So just similar situations with what we have is the design tools nowadays. You have digital design, but there's a huge gap between your digital input and finally you get physical output. So the way we solve this with for machines is by introducing a concept called direct manipulations, right? But the key takeaway here is to sort of close the gap between the input and output and allow people to see your code or see the running result immediately. So by closing the gap between the input and output, we sort of have the interactive programming goal. We sort of have the interactive programming management nowadays. And that's sort of what we want to achieve with the 3D design. That is trying to close the gap between the input and output and try to make the whole process interactive. So that's something that we're going to talk about today. And we call that interactive fabrication. There's different ways we can achieve that, and of course this is all sort of things that we're still working on in the research field. There are no commercial things like that, but I think there's some of the interesting products I can share with you. So the first way to do interactive fabrication is pretty straightforward. We do that through what we call this hands-on physical modeling. Right? So the way we design physical models are pretty straightforward. You take this is something called clay play. The way it works is like you take a bunch of clay, you roll them into a down rope sort of, and then you pile them up layer by layer. And then by doing that, you sort of see the physical model immediately, and then use this hands-on activity to do these models. The good things with that is like they have a really easy mental model. There's no abstract concept about like what is revolve or extrusion or sweep. All you do is like you see the material in your hand, and then you just cut them out there by there. So they have a really easy mental model. But the drawbacks here is like you cannot really make the shapes really precise unless you're highly skilled eyes. So what we want to do here is try to combine this hands-on design method for this digital modeling, trying to design 3D digital models through a hands-on or physical way. Okay. So the first things I would like to introduce is how we decode a hands-on approach to design 3D digital models. The way we do that is like we design the physical tools that can actually hold in your hand. It's like a pen. That's a 3D printed pen. It looks like that. So this is the hand grip where you can actually hold the pen. We have the material, which is a wax wire. The way we make it work is like we actually run a wax wire from the bottom part to the top part of the tools to actually extrude material from here. And the whole thing can be tracked with the digital magnetic trackers. That is 60 Wi, so all these motions in the physical space can be directly captured and translated into the digital world. We also have the hands-on, we have this motorized direction actuator which can actually compensate your hands movement because we are doing 3D models in physical space. You cannot do that perfectly, but we have this physical mechanism that actually correct your hands motions in real time. And the idea again is trying to design the 3D digital model but through a physical way. So on the top part, you design a 3D physical model with a low fidelity wax material, and then the goal is trying to design 3D digital model at the same time. Let me show you one quick video to show how it looks like. Alright, so we're going to design a small teapot with this example. So to start with, you start by just pulling up layers with these tools. Notice that the tip of the motion is different from my hand, so they can actually sort of lead my hands motions throughout the building process. And here is like the digital capturing of your models and your hands motions in real time. You can switch to different tools, of course. You can actually do cuttings here, and then you can build second models or second primitives based on your design and build that on top of the previous one. While you're doing the physical models, the 3D digital models generated at the same time. What I get is like a really low fidelity 3D physical model. This is sort of in regular shape, but because we can compensate your hands motions on the digital shape, is actually really accurate. So the cool thing with that is like the designers doesn't need to learn any of the CAD interface, even doesn't need to learn the CAD concept. You can just take the tools that's sort of using that as a pen or 3D pens in 3D space, and can start to use 3D digital models. And you also have this constant digital or tangible feedback. You can know exactly how the shape looks like or how big or small it is. So this is sort of the benefit of these tools. Here are some of the other examples we can build or have tried with some tools. Here are some of the simple models I just showed. This is the Technica, and we can also do regular shapes and do cuttings here. We can also do digital copy and paste visual tools. So here you can see that we, in the visual world, we make classes with one line. What we can actually do is I can copy and paste in digital world and with certain tools to create 3D digital models. So the first things I want to show here, I want to say is like the concept of people is trying to combine the benefit of CAD modeling and handcraft models here. So on the one hand, it's trying to do everything in the digital world, so I can visualize everything into copy and paste or duplications. But also we have this concept of direct manipulation. So directly interact with physical models with this hands-on activity. So that's something I think is pretty cool, but they also have some of the drawbacks I want to mention here as well. From the video, you probably already seen that one of the drawbacks is like the building speed is kind of slow. With this concept, you sort of have to design everything with your hand, and if you want to design something that is big, you sort of convert yourself into a 3D printer, and you have to use your hands as a 3D gateways. So if you want to do something big, it's pretty slow. And also for people who already have the CAD experience, this is probably not the best use for them. So the next approach we're trying to do here is trying to see that how can we still offer this hands-on or haptic feedbacks to designers, but still allow them to design 3D models with CAD model tools. And the way we did that is like we're trying to swipe out the traditional 3D printers here with a customer 3D printer. And this printer has 5 GB of freedom printing capabilities, and that printer can talk to your software, your CAD modeling tools in real time. With this system, what I can do here is I can do 3D printing or 3D design and printing at the same time. So it's a CAD modeling tools with incremental physical printing. So here is one example. Let's see a video to see how the designer is actually be able to design the whole model from scratch with a CAD model tools in less than 10 minutes. And within 10 minutes, you actually see the models actually printed at the same time. All right, so this is actually a typical CAD modeling interface. It's called Rhino. It's quite popular among architects. So we have our own software plugin here. So to start with, the designer start to design the fuselage using CAD modeling tools in here. And the moment you finish designing the fuselage, you can see the digital model is actually sent to the 3D printers, and the print happens at the same time. And while the printer is printing something, the designer doesn't need to wait, but can actually design new parts at the same time. And if you want to actually pause the print and take the model out of the 3D printer, put 3D models in real space and compare the size and see its space into the physical environment. You can, of course, bring it back to the 3D printer and keep printing and keep designing. If you want to change your mind, change some of the design in digital models, you can have the cutting blades sort out to reflect your design activities. So you can actually do cuttings in the physical space as well. So whatever you do in the digital world, sort of replicate that in the 3D physical world. I'm not sure if you noticed we have a timestamp here, but everything's designed and finished, print from scratch using 10 minutes here. And the cool thing here is that in this 10 minutes, you not only have this low fidelity model, you actually already take the model out of 3D printer and check the size and compare that to the real environment. So instead of delay the physical print for a couple of hours, you sort of fast forward the whole process and be able to do the design printing at the same time. And while we're designing software plugin, we're trying to make the users focus on the design activity itself. So the software can actually automatically schedule what part to be print, so that the user can sort of focus on the digital design and doesn't need to change the design habit. So this is the core things of this product. If I had time, I can sort of walk you through some of the key features here. To support this design fabrication sort of happens in parallel, there's a couple of things we need to do on both on the hardware and software side. On the hardware side, we got to do 3 things basically. Try to make the 3D printing as fast as possible. Try to be able to print incrementally and try to make some practical changes. And to print fast, what we do here is like we build our own 3D printer distributed with a pair of mist cooling nozzles, and we actually shoot water or mist directly to the centers of the distributors. So that's why you can see instead of like printing things layer by layer, actually extrude the material in 3D space and solidify or cooling the material in the 3D space. And to print incrementally is because you don't want to remove the model every time you design a new part, right? When you design 3D models, you'll probably design things from different angles or perspectives. You want to keep printing at the same time. So the way we do that is like we build our own 3D printers with 5 degrees of freedom, so you can see the printing platform can rotate and be on the pitch. And this allows you to, for example, print something from the side. This is something you definitely cannot do with the traditional 3D printers because you just cannot reach from the side. And finally, we have this retractable cutting blade, and you have seen like why we need that, right? You design something, you want to make modifications. This is something come handy. All right. So this is one of the hardware modifications, and on the software side, here are the sort of the 2 design considerations. First, we want to be able to print the new primitives automatically, and we also try to solve all the potential collisions during the design and rotation of the models. Here is sort of the software pipeline. We start by designing new models on CAD modeling tools. That model is taped into a 3D printing queue. And in this printing queue, most of the time we're following first in, first out, like FIFO, right? But what we're actually doing here is we're actually optimize the printing orders based on the potential collisions and generate different printing order candidates and pick the one that's servable best. Then calculate the printing angles and generate the G code, which is machine code that can exercise the distributive to different positions. And the G code is set to the printing machines line by line, and the whole process loops to finish all the designs where we can print all the part that we are able to print. So here are sort of the summary of all the models that we have tried. A lot of them are sort of design print within 10 minutes. Some of them is like finish in 3-5 minutes. This one we actually designed. I think we designed the bottom part first and then the second. But because we have the algorithm can sort of to optimize the printing orders, we can print the top part first so that we can avoid any collision collisions. This is another example. We can do what we did here is actually design the sphere and sort of cut the top part, and then print the second part on top of that and see how this sort of reflected in this physical way as well. All right, so a quick summary here. What we're doing here for the second approach is trying to offer people who already know how to do CAD modeling tools a way to receive the physical model in a fast manner. So we offer people a fast physical feedback and allow them to keep the high design happy. So this is something like I think is pretty cool. The only thing that sort of bothers me while we're working on this is like we're trying to close the gap between the design and printing in sort of the time domains. But you still design everything on a 2D screen using catalog tools. And the printing still happen on separate machines on 3D printer. The physical distance between you and the printer is still sort of pretty big. So the next step is trying to close the physical gap between the designer and the physical models. And the way we do that is actually pretty straightforward. So this is sort of the on-the-fly print metaphor here, right? We design on the 2D screen and you print on the machines. The next step, what we want to do here, we want to move the users from the 2D screens to the real physical space. And now we're going to ask someone how to have the design to print the models. Now we have the white arm to print models for you while you design the models. And because now you don't have the 2D screens, you have to have some visual feedback to support your design, right? And the way we do that is pretty simple. We have augmented reality headset, so that you can see the visual rendering of the models and actually have the models printed with the robotic arm at the same time. That's what we call institute design and fabrication. We basically combine design and fabrication together in both of the time domain and spatial domain. So that's what we call ROMA, robotic following system interactive fabrication with augmented reality and robotic 3D printers. So this is sort of the basic system setups. From left to right, we have the designers wearing augmented reality headsets, designing through the AR controllers, and all everything happens on this coding platform, including the design and also the printing. And the printing is done by this robotic 3D printers. And the way it works is very simple. You see the designer, which is me, by the way, designing something. This is sort of what you see from the camera, and the printing is happening. You'll probably notice that this is something quite similar to the on-the-fly print from certain perspective, right? First, the printing is still using sort of the wireframe structures we have already seen with on-the-fly print example. And also what we're trying to achieve here is to have design and fabrication happening in parallel, which is already been demonstrated with on-the-fly print. So what's the benefit of having the designer and the printer physically located together? Well, so one way to consider this is like, if you zoom out a little bit to see the big picture, we have the 3D printers or 3D, well, the robotic arm in this whole room and printing is happening here. And what you're doing here is actually step into the 3D printers. You sort of share the physical location with the 3D printer and you work together with the 3D printers in the same locations. And the benefit of that is, well, the first thing is like you can sort of take the physical objects with your hands or other existing objects as a design reference to design 3D models. Here I'm using the weight of my hand to design the height of the teapot, but I can take other physical objects as a design reference. And this is something definitely cannot do with on-the-fly print because that design is happening on a 2D screen without really taking the models there for reference. So the first benefit is the user can use the body and other physical objects as a design reference. But this is something you can do with just with AR itself. Right? So you have an AR system, you can sort of already see your hand and you rendering. You can do things like that. So what's the benefit of combining augmented reality and fabrication at the same time? Well, here's another base. So what we're doing here is like we're designing the handle here, but the way we design that, I actually put my fingers against these physical parts as a design reference to design this handle. So what's interesting here is like we sort of use the partially printed model as a physical affordance to design the second part. So this is something that's unique here. It's like we can use partially printed model to support the next design steps. So this is the benefit of using this physical model in real time because in the pure augmented reality, there's no things that are printed here. If you put your finger there, there's no force feedback, or there's nothing there. Alright, so the last one I want to mention is like, because we have this system, you can really just take existing physical object into the printer and start to design around it and even print it around it. So in this example, we have a toy here that sort of capture the surface to the back, and then you design on top of it and actually also print on top of the physical models. Right. So the way the designer interacts with the machine is based on a classic intersect principle based on the proximities between the designers and the robot. If the designers, for example, wants to rotate the platform, what he's doing is that he just touch the platform, and the robotic arm will just retreat automatically. So I touch that, the robotic arm just move away. So that I have the space, I actually carry the space, I can rotate the platform. And if the designer finishes the design and decides to leave, then the robotic arm can sort of take the charge of the whole area and start to print by itself. Alright, so enough talking, let me show you one concrete example of the designer sort of start from scratch to design these department models. There may be something interesting here. Alright, so the left part is the side cameras, the right part is sort of the first person view from the back side. You can see the moment I finish the design of the teapot body, the machine gently started print. The yellow lines represent the deeper rendering of the print part, like sort of aligned with the physical models. I can see the printing actually happening only to the half back of the platform. And the reason for that is that that gives the designer a space that they can design different things simultaneously with the machine to the front end. And here the designer is designing the spot of the teapot, and then you use the control points to change the shape. Now the designer wants to design something to the back, he taps the platform. You can see when we rotate the platform, the digital and physical models will rotate at the same time. I think together. And now once we finish the rotation, the robot can gently again, and by knowing the new position, it can sort of recalculate the edges that haven't been printed and reorganize the printing order. I'll just like keep printing at the same time. While the printing is working on something here, the designer can sort of design new stuff. Now the designer sort of put the hands here and then design new handles based on hands reference. And while we're doing that, you see the printer is happening, working at the same time to the body colors. Now the printer can also like repulse itself to print things like from sideways. Here the printer is printing the spot that we just done. And if we finish the design, the designer can sort of decide just to leave the design scene, retreat. And the printer can sort of take full advantage of the space and finish the printing of itself. Right, so this is sort of the design process for the teapot. Now here's another quick example to show we can design on top of any physical models. So here is a toy aircraft model. We can use the tools to sort of capture the textures or the surface or topologies of the models here, and then use that as starting point to design new digital models on top of that. Here we just design a simple stand for this aircraft models. So I finish the design, we hand it to the 3D printers, and then start to design on top of that based on digital models. And the cool things with that is like that sort of again sort of distance both physical and spatial, both timely and spatially between the designer and the printers. So you can quickly get the physical model printed on top of the existing model. That allows you to quickly check if the model can, for example, stand on the top of the stand, the platform or not. In this case, it works quite good, so it's great. But But even if it failed, it doesn't matter. Just simply remove this part and try new design. So that will quickly iterate different designs with this setup. Here are some of the other examples that I have tried with the system. Here's another example. So you can actually take the Lego models on top of put them on top of the design printing platform and then design directly around it and then print on top of it. Right. So a quick summary here. What I want to show today is this is where the traditional design and fabrication workflow looks like. The temporal and spatial distance between designer and machines are all quite far. It takes a lot of time to design the models, and you cannot have the physical access to the models during the design process. And then we try different ways to improve this. The default is a hands-on approach allows you to actually directly work on with the physical models. You get pretty close with the model itself, and you yourself is the printer. The only challenge with this is the printing speed is kind of slow. And then we have an on-the-fly print. We have a very, very fast printing speed. You sort of get closer to the design to the printer. But in terms of time domain, the physical domain is still in separate machines. And then we optimize that with Roma, which can sort of design printing at the same time and also at the same place. That's pretty much all I want to talk, but before we close that, I want to show one more thing. So all these two models are sort of printing and design based on wireframe structures. One challenge is that you sort of cannot really cover the whole area of the surface. So we have a recent work that we just published a couple of months ago that is sort of asks questions if you can directly interact with the physical matters or physical objects, but not using 3D printing or not using cutting or additive manufacturing. We're trying to do this with formative manufacturing. See if we can directly change the shape of the object. So here's a project called Form 5 Continuous Interactive Fabrications. So the idea here is that you can use your gestures to control the shape of the physical object. So this is not computer letter, this is actually physical. Sheet is a piece of, consider that as a piece of plastic, and the shape of the plastic will change based on your hand gestures. And the way it works is we have the workpiece here. It's a piece of plastic. The whole thing is built into vacuum chambers. And you can control the air flow inside the vacuum chambers based on hand gestures. This is one of the examples we tried. There's a tag there. This is sort of step by step visualization of how it works. So we already showed that we can do the full block of the hat. Now the user sort of trying to design one piece of the hat. So he have a gesture to say, this is the part I want to do editing. And here we use the brute force method is using a heat gun to sort of heat the area. And then this area become sort of soft, and then you can use a gesture to control the shape of that. As it rolls, and we sort of destroy these structures. And I can release, have a release gestures and the shape will stop there. I can further edit the shape. Let's say I want it larger and I start to do this. And repeat some more gestures, and that will go as well. And that moment just give you the direct feedback so you can directly manipulate the physical object. So here it says I want to keep this area again. Then we have these machines come here to soften this area specifically. This is sort of the prototyping phase, so this is not the ideal way to do that. And that's sort of giving the concept of how you can directly manipulate and act in this models. So here's a simple app. Now the rest of the part is pretty much the same. You can do different shapes, and you can actually do concave shape as well. You can actually push the things inside. just trying to make the eyes. For the eyes, we're actually trying to push the things inside. We have two different sides of the index. So here you can actually push down, and this is just go inside as well. It's go out. The way to do that is by again just control the arrow flows inside here. There's still a lot of limitations in this approach. For example, every time you have to use feedback from here, that will actually take a lot of time. And also, for now, without any constraints, the only shape we can do sort of is sphere shape just because of the heat distribution is sort of like a uniform to all these reactions. So how to sort of design arbitrary shape or shape with sharp angles is actually something not challenging but interesting question to ask. So this is sort of the teddy bear head that we can do this side. Alright, so this is something still at a very early stage, but you see all the models or all the examples I showed today are quite different from the traditional CAD design tools to design the screen and then models. This is sort of the way of adding the models with the support of the digital tools. Alright, so that's sort of is the last piece of work that I'd like to show. And again, this is sort of the long ambitions. We're trying to push here. I don't have time to talk about the second part, but at the slides here, maybe one I can talk about that later on in the future. Alright. So in conclusion, we're talking about immersive fabrication is technical CI and this sort of things we're trying to do here as well. And if you're interested in anything I talk about here, let me know. Right, so that's it.